So let's break down the vibe of Toronto. Ever since it was made official that we would be competing in the NBA Finals. Honestly, and I made a video about this on Facebook like the day after it happened, but now that all my thoughts are condensed or a bit more condensed and the allotted time has now passed by and what have you as far as everyone gearing up and what have you, I gotta say this, man. The energy in this city right now, as far as basketball is concerned, I've never seen anything like it. As long as I've been living in this country, in this province, within the GTA, I have never seen the atmosphere for basketball this thick in my life. This is our first time for me. Seeing this is giving me goosebumps. Even during the Vince Carter era when Purple Fever was a thing and we were getting into the postseason for the first time, we were getting the national coverage for the first time, he was coming off the dunk contest, his back and forth battle with Allen Iverson in the 2001 postseason. This trumps everything that came before it. I've never seen anything like this. Like, to the point where you're seeing news stations go out of their way to talk about the Raptors. You're seeing cities across the GTA wanting to do their own Jurassic Park. Like, you have the Celebration Square in Mississauga doing their own version of Jurassic Park. They call it Jurassic Park West. They had 20,000 people in the square. 20,000 for a basketball game. That is madness. I don't know what the record is for the amount of people that they've had at the square, but I wouldn't be surprised to believe that that has to be within the top 5 because that is a staggering number. You had about 3,000 people in downtown Brampton watching the game at their square as well. You had a large amount of people watching it at the Burlington Celebration Square. I'm not sure what theirs is called, like the official name of it, but for their nickname, they called it Burlasic Park. And then you had a watch party happening in Waterloo, in Kitchener, in Halifax, in Montreal, in Vancouver, in Calgary. Listen, especially during the We the North era, aka the last 5 years now, the Raptors have been known as Canada's team. Like they're strongly enforcing that notion. And it's more than just a notion now. It's legitimate. When you have fans all across the country supporting you like that and gathering up in large groups of people, in large masses of humanity, that's when you know the support is real. Like this is not just Toronto's team. This is Canada's team. Please believe it. It's still mind-boggling to me that so many people have come out to lend their support. And then you have other sports teams within the city giving their support as well. The Argos gave their support, the Blue Jays, the Maple Leafs, Team Canada Hockey has given their support as well. It's crazy. And for the longest time, people kept saying that this is a hockey nation, that basketball would never get over. People don't understand basketball. Look at where we're at now. We're at the point where basketball is the leading headline as far as sports is concerned in this country because of what the Raptors have been able to do. You know, the Jays aren't doing so good. They're in the middle of a real rebuild. The Leafs had a disappointing season, unfortunately. MLS basically just got underway, so there's not really too much hype right now surrounding that. But the Raptors, I mean, they've been doing good all year as far as the regular season is concerned. They had a gentleman's sweep in the first round. They had an epic 7-game series against the Philadelphia 76ers, which was capped off by one of the greatest buzzer beaters that we've ever seen in NBA history. And then they went 4-2 against the Bucks, including beating them 4 straight times to clinch their berth in the NBA Finals. Man, if you're a basketball fan in this country, you gotta be chomping at the bit. Not only if you're a basketball fan, but if you've been a Raptors fan for the longest time. Listen, I remember growing up, when I was 7 years old, the Raptors first came to be. That's when they played their first inaugural season. Jim Stoudemire, you already know the whole deal, basically. You already know the whole deal. they were just getting started, so no one had any high expectations. And then the second year came by, they did a little bit better. They went from 21-61 to 30-52. It's like, okay, cool. They're making a little bit of progress, slowly but surely. But then the 97-98 season comes around, then they totally wet the bed. 16-66, by far their worst record ever, and they haven't gone anywhere close to that since. James Stoudemire requested trade midway through the season, and he was the first star of ours, I should say, to leave the team. T-Mac was on that team as well. He had just gotten drafted that year out of high school. And then the 98-99 season came about, and we went from the Sky Dome to the Air Canada Center, a lot more intimate, a lot more official for a basketball arena. Vince Carter comes along, and Vince Sandy was basically sparked during that year. And it was a lockout year, mind you. So he was able to do just a little bit, he was able to do a lot in a little short amount of time, which was amazing as far as generating the hype and what have you. And put them in the right direction. 99-2000 season comes along. He's by far the most popular player in the league at this point. He kills it in a dunk contest. People are starting to talk about Toronto. We're starting to get national broadcasts on NBC. And then we make our first playoff berth in franchise history at that point. Get swept in the first round. T-Mac leaves. He wants to be his own man. So be it. Raptors run it back. They do a little bit better this time around. They win their first ever playoff series against the Knicks. Then they had an epic 7-game series against the Philadelphia 76ers. Things don't go our way. And then we're thinking at that point, this is just the beginning. We're going to get better and better. But from then on, things didn't get better. And then the support for the team started to wane a little bit, or not even a little bit, a lot actually. And then it just became a thing where it wasn't cool to be a Raptors fan anymore. It wasn't cool to be a Vince Carter fan anymore. Vince wasn't playing at the level that he was playing at before. He was always injured. He was always quote unquote whining and what have you. And then eventually he gets traded. And then the Bosch era comes in where it's mostly, a lot of European players coming into the game and not really knowing how to play the North American style. And even though we had a couple of playoff runs during that era, nothing really came out of it. Then Bosch leaves in free agency in 2010, and then the Raptors tried to build the team around Bargnani. No. DeMar DeRozan says, hold on. Toronto, I got us. And then DeRozan, who was never meant to be an all-star, just worked at his game. Tried to improve in whatever facet he could. And then, in 2013, beginning of the 2013-14 season, Masai's making moves. Masai's trading this person. He's trading Rudy Gay. He traded Bargnani. He already traded Bargnani the season before. Like, he is looking to clean house, but then something happens. The Raptors start winning and winning and winning to the point where they're leading the Atlantic Division and they're getting into the playoffs. And at this time is when the We the North movement started. This is when people started to regain their pride and joy in supporting the Toronto Raptors. I'll still support the Raptors even through the bad times because I'm a homer. That's just me. I have no emotional attachment to any other team outside my city. I'll still be fans of certain teams. Like, I was a fan of the Thunder during those times when they were losing, when it was KD, Russ, and Harden, because they were just a young group of guys who were just getting it done. And I thought that was amazing. I was still supporting the Bulls because of Derrick Rose and his ascension, but I never had that emotional attachment to those teams. And then during this We the North era, had a few bumps and bruises along the way. But what I can definitively say about this We the North era of the Raptors is that within the last 5 years, from 2014 to 2019, of all the teams in the Eastern Conference, an argument can be made that they've been the most consistent team thus far. Because if you think about it, Miami and Cleveland were only successful when LeBron James was at the helm of that squad. Washington was supposed to be that next team on the up and up, but they've had in and out years where they would make the playoffs, then they wouldn't make the playoffs, and they would make the playoffs and then not make the playoffs once again. Brooklyn basically gave themselves a short window of opportunity to compete, but then they were in the doghouse for, I would say, about 3 out of those 5 years. And then Boston is probably the only other team that I can say that comes close to consistency when it comes to competing in the Eastern Conference. They're the only team that I can think of that was somewhat consistent in comparison to the Raptors. But the Raptors have always been knocking on that door. The first 2 years, 2014, 2015, bounced out in the first round. Okay, cool. Third year, in 2016, made it all the way to the conference finals. Lost 4-2 to LeBron James and the Cavs. Okay, cool. It's a sign of things to come. Very next year, 2017, make a trade for Ibaka. We won our first playoff series in 6 games in the first round, but then went to go play against LeBron James, get swept. Disappointing, but okay, we still got some tinkering to do. And then that's when Masai said that it's time for a culture reset. And then we come to 2018, where we're thinking, okay, this has to be the year that we get something done. We're first in the conference, best overall record in franchise history, top 5 offense, top 5 defense. Everyone's sharing the ball. It's pace and space. We're getting it done. We're figuring out the JV and Ibaka combinations. We're getting it done. Like, this has to be the year. Take care of business against the Wizards in the first round of the playoffs. And then we run into the wall that was LeBron James once again and get swept in embarrassing fashion. And then you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? What's going to, like, how are you going to keep the fan base engaged? And then boom, first domino that falls. Dwayne Casey gets fired. Everyone's like, oh, okay, Masai's serious. And then the second domino that falls, DeMar gets traded. And that shook everyone's core. I don't care if you liked him or if you hated him, you were shocked when that trade was made. Me, I was so torn because on one end I'm thinking to myself, I get it, DeMar wasn't performing like he was supposed to in the playoffs, but damn, he was the only star that we've had, with the exception of Lowry, of course, that actually wanted to be here. And that was hard for Raptors fans to accept. And then we get Kawhi, and we're thinking, okay, we know how good this guy can be, but what's his health like? Does he even want to be here? So many unknowns that Raptors fans had to deal with. But then in hindsight, all the way back to where we are right now, when you think about it, man, it was the right move that we needed to make, because without Kawhi, the Raptors wouldn't have been able to gotten to this point. And there's so many things that were clicking, not just with Kawhi, but Siakam's ascension, Larry's development as more of a playmaker this time around, the trade for Marc Gasol, him being another playmaker, someone with a high IQ, the creativity of Nick Nurse's coaching style, a clear contrast from what Dwayne Casey was doing. Everything had to hit on the right note. And I'm so glad it did, because this is where we're at right now, and the fans are enjoying it. And that's another thing I want to talk about, the fans. I've heard some people say, well, I don't want the bandwagoners to hop on the bandwagon, because they're the same guys who are making fun of me when I was a Raptors fan. Now they're trying to hop on the bandwagon. You know what? I'll be honest. That would have been me a year ago, 2 years ago. I used to joke around with my friends saying, once we win our championship and we're at the parade, I'm going to, build a gate around the parade and only invite the real fans in it. But now, I say, if you're trying to hop on the bandwagon, welcome. Hop on the bandwagon. Be my guest. Single file, please. Single file, one after another. You know why? Because at the end of the day, whether you've been a day one fan, or you've been a fan since the We the North era started, or you've been an on-again, off-again fan, fair weather, whatever the case may be, or if you're just there because you're starting for the gram, either way, the Raptors need as much support as possible. So my thing is, put aside your differences, whether you've been here from day one or you just got here 2 minutes ago, and know that you're coming together for a common goal, and that's to support the team. You are supporting the team. If you know in your heart that you're a day one fan, cool. You don't have to brag about it. You don't have to wear it as a badge of honor. You don't have to do it to make yourself feel more superior than someone else who isn't. Just know that this team rallies behind its fan base, its rabid and passionate fan base. I was talking to some of my American homies when I was watching the game yesterday, and one of my guys was like, yo, that building is loud. You guys have a louder building than the Oracle Arena. And I'm just like, what can I say? That's my city. That's my country. Like, the American audience, they're just finding out about this. And I think that's the most gratifying thing about this entire experience overall, because they never knew that Toronto, let alone Canada, had this type of passionate support for basketball. They thought that we were all about hockey, and for a long time that was the narrative, because hockey is Canada's country, and I get it, but there's more to this country than just hockey. I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Raptors have the most diverse fan base out of any other sports team in Canada. In Canada. And arguably in North America. You can make an argument for that. I personally think you can. But as far as, at least in Canada, it's not even close. They have the most diverse fan base. Like, basketball is not just a black sport. It's played by everyone. It's enjoyed by everyone. When I look into Jurassic Park and I see all the different faces from different cultural backgrounds and religions and what have you, that is the essence of what Toronto is. That is the essence of what Toronto is all about. And what I would love is for that essence to permeate throughout the entire country. Not just in Toronto, not even just in Toronto, not even just in Jurassic Park. That has to spread. And I think when you're talking about the NBA wanting to be an international product and wanting to go global, Toronto is the reason why you have a team in that city because of the global diversity that you see. It's a cultural mosaic. It's a diaspora of so many different cultures, and that's the beauty of it. And it's funny because America's just getting a little taste of that. They don't even know. They're not even ready for the whole thing. And whether they're ready or not, the Raptors, as a team and as a fan base, they're going to give it to them. And I can't wait. This has to be the greatest era of Raptors basketball that I've ever seen in all my years of supporting the team. I've seen mixtapes that are being made for the Raptors online. I'm seeing ads all over the city. Hell, there was an ad that I saw today from New Balance that was actually posted in Oakland that basically said the King of the North is coming, and it's a picture of Kawhi Leonard. Like, the brashness of the city right now, I love it. I love it. Because this is a city that for the longest time was so insecure about what the American audience and fan base thought about the Raptors. They always wanted validation from the Skip Baylesses of the world, from the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, from the Max Kellermans of the world, from anyone who had a large platform in America when it came to talking sports and basketball specifically. But you've seen this team for the entire year. You've seen how they performed in the playoffs. You don't have to wait for the American audience to tell you about your team. You watch them more than they do. You already know how your team balls out. That's why they're here. That's why they're in the finals. They're not in the finals by luck. Look at the competition that they had to slay across the way in order to get to the NBA Finals. They had to beat an Orlando Magic team that slapped them in the face with a sledgehammer in that first game. They had to beat a Philadelphia team who had by far the most stacked starting lineup in the Eastern Conference and arguably the most stacked starting lineup in the NBA. I'd say second best, but that's neither here nor there. And they had to go 7 games in that series. They had to play against a Milwaukee Bucks team that was heavily favored to be the Eastern Conference champions, to go against the Golden State Warriors, who have the preemptive MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And they beat them 6 games. And not only did they do that, but they figured out the Rubik's Cubes as to how to stop Giannis when no one else was able to do just that. The Raptors did that. The Raptors, by and large, had the most difficult path to the finals out of any team this year. And they stand as one of only 2 teams left remaining in the NBA, fighting for that Larry O'Brien trophy. Now ask yourself this. Do you really need the American validation? I would say no. Because they have shown you, and by that I mean the Raptors, they have shown you how great of a team that they are and how an elite of a defensive team that they are as well as offensively. So I say this just to close out this segment, man. Just like Messiah said at the beginning of the year, believe in your team, believe in your city, believe in yourselves. Because this team has what it takes to lift that trophy up come middle of June. They already lifted a smaller trophy near the end of May, but they're looking for the bigger one. They're not satisfied, and neither are we as fans. I get it. It's great that they made it to the finals, but we're not here just to be here. We're here to win it all. That is the goal of competing in sports, to win it all, to win a championship. And I believe that this Raptors team has the ability to do just that. But man, if you are a basketball fan of the city, or just a fan of sports, or just a fan of good vibes, the positive vibes and energy, then what a time to be alive. This is the time to be alive, to be a Raptors fan. For all the years of abuse that you had to endure for decades upon decades, like 2.5 decades literally, but nonetheless, then man, the payoff that you're experiencing right now is hard to describe in words. So again, big up your city. Don't be afraid to big up your city. Believe in yourselves. Leave the skepticism at the door. Put it on that side. Just enjoy the positive vibes that you're getting, because right now all the positive vibes I'm getting, they're so positive and so overwhelmingly positive that I'm not even thinking about the negativity. If you want to be negative about this team, fine. Stand in the corner. Cool. Do you, boo. But when I see thousands upon thousands of people in different cities within the GTA and within Canada as a whole supporting this team, I can't even be bothered to devote my time to the vocal minority that wants to rain on people's parades, man. I'm focusing on the positivity at this point, man. So if you want to be a non-Raptor supporter, cool. But I'm not listening to you. I'm sorry. You're wasting your breath on me, at least. I'm focusing on the positivity that I'm seeing, that I've been longing to see for a long time, and I'm finally getting it. And I hope it continues. Either way, enjoy this team. We're not sure what's going to happen. We hope for what's going to happen. But enjoy this moment, because something like this will never, ever be forgotten. Soak it all in. Just soak it all in. And believe in this team and believe in this city. We the North. What do you guys think, man? Do you think the Raptors can go all the way? Do you think they can win the title? Either way, let me know what your thoughts are. Hit me up on social media at C.O.O.L Radio CC and share your thoughts.